All right, this is 30 minutes each day of building an Osage bow. For sure need to start by cutting off that bad end. Okay, much better than what we started with. The next step is bark and sapwood removal with a draw knife. Just pretty meticulous, you kind of take your time. It's very repetitive, but you end up with these satisfying little scrapings. Great for firewood. And then you uncover the honey, which is also known as the heartwood of the bow, which will actually be used to make the entire structure and working form of the bow. But that's why it's so important to remove all the sapwood and the bark very meticulously. You can kind of narrowing the limbs out as we go. You can see all the little micro layers. We gotta pick one of those and follow that the whole way. Sometimes you gotta turn around and go the other way, but that's about as far as we got for day one. Time for day two. So we start off, we're just going to remove some more of that bark and sapwood, and then we turn the stave on its side. We're kind of trying to thin it out. Now, if you'll notice, I'm holding my red-handled draw knife, which is much sharper and makes the work of removing the wood way easier for me. I mean, you can easily see the work of that draw knife just destroying the remainder of that sapwood and getting right down to that honey color that I'm after. But whenever you start seeing gold, you got to start being careful, though. Notice the switch in draw knives. Think that we're starting to establish that initial ring, which we just got to glance at, but then when we get to the end, we notice that we've perforated a ring. Now, if you look closely here, you can see 3 overlying rings which need to be removed, and that ring closest to us is actually the one that we're now chasing. So with the remaining time, that's as far as we get for day 2. Time for day 3. Yeah, so we just jump in right where we left off. As you can see, changing the angle of the attack of the draw knife can really help. Now you may see me shifting the draw knife or even turning the piece of wood, and that's because there's a general rule when it comes to knots that you can go to it but never through it. This is to avoid capping any knots. I decided to thin the limbs out just a little bit. Look at how thin these rings are. That's what I'm working with. That's why I have to be so meticulous. But we're getting there. You can see we only have about 1.5 feet left. And then I really take my time on this ending part. At the end of the day, though, it is so worth it because you're left with such a beautiful and immaculate product. Time for day 4. So the first thing, we're going to trace down our center line. And then from the limb tips, we're going to measure 14 inches down for our limb tapers. We're just repeating that on the opposite side. We're going to taper it down to about 1/2 inch at the end of the limb. Then we're going to get busy with the draw knife, thinning it out. Pretty easy work. We're using our real sharp draw knife. I'm getting rid of some of the extra meat. I'm pretty familiar with the ending thickness just from how many bows that I've made. Nice little wood drop there. Thinning out the other side now. Here we make the decision to go against the grain a little bit, which is not my norm, but it will make the ending process easier. Still thinning the limbs out, checking it out visually, just making sure everything's kind of lining up. Then we measure our center point, and 4 inches down from there, we're going to thin everything out. This is as far as we got on day 4. This is day 5. First thing, we're scribing our lines so we know how thick to make our limbs. Then we grab our draw knife, and we're going to use those scribed lines as guides. Now, a couple things. You just want to follow one line at a time. Don't try to do both sides at the same time. Just follow one line. Be meticulous. Be patient. You can't put more wood on there. Now, always check your work as I'm doing here. Then move over to the other side. You're going to follow the other line the same way. Then you're going to move over to your rasp, which will let you hit those drawn-on scribed lines and hit them exactly so that you know you're right where you want to be and you're ready for the next step. Now you're going to whip out your farrier's rasp, which is great for making the cross-section of the limb more rectangular. Which, what does that do? It makes it so that when the wood bends, everything is more evenly distributed, so it's very desirable. Now we're moving on to checking the bending of the side that we haven't done. It barely bends even 1/2 inch. And then here's the side we worked on today. We already have 2 to 3 inches of bend, and it's evenly distributed, which is great. Time for day 6. First, we get busy with the draw knife, same as yesterday. We're trying to just get rid of some of the wood on that limb, get down to our scribed lines. That's the thickness that we're looking for. Then we move over to the rasp work, just doing a little bit more thinning out. You can see we moved over to the farrier's rasp, trying to get that more rectangular cross section. Farrier's rasp really makes quick work. As you can see, we are getting there. And then we test our floor tiller. We're just bending it, trying to make sure everything is bending evenly. We flip it around, check the other side. Looking pretty decent. Now we're going to move over to our handle, which we feather out the handle, and then we quickly move over to the rafts and do the finish work, kind of round it out. This is our final product for today. As you can see, it is really coming along. This is day 7. So we start out, we're just bending. This is called floor tillering. You bend it, you see where the wood needs to be removed, you mark it, and then you use a farrier's rest to do the wood removal, which you can see me doing. After you do the removal, you're going to bend it again. You're going to see what changes have occurred. You're going to mark new lines, and then you're going to remove more wood. It's a very, very repetitive process, but you have to take your time. You can't just dig huge dugouts into the wood or you'll develop hinges. So you really have to go mark, bend, wood removal, check. Mark, bend, wood removal, check, which you can see me doing. Now, one of these limbs naturally just develops a very, very nice curve, and I don't really have to work with it that much. But this limb right here, you can see, so this is our good limb that's bending right now. But the other limb, about 8 inches up, wants to potentially develop a hinge. You can see it right here. About 8 inches up, that's a potential hinge point. So how you deal with that is you mark everywhere else on that limb, and you're going to remove wood with your farrier's rasp everywhere else to try to balance it out. So we've got that great limb, we're marking. Here's our troublesome limb. Yeah, that you can still see that hinge trying to want to be prominent. We're going to mark everywhere above that hinge point and remove more wood like we're doing. Farrier's rasp is your best friend. Okay, the good side looks pretty good. That's not bad for a floor tiller. And here's the side that we've been working on. It's starting to develop more natural of a curve. We're going to put in a little more work. Good side still looks good. Let's see how the other side's looking. Yep, it is starting to just round out. We're just going to continue doing the same thing. Wood removal on the upper part of that limb. Here you can see it really for the first time starting to round out. And then our good side is still good. So that was a lot of work, but it's as far as we got today. This is day 8. So we're starting off, we're marking the lines, scribing where we need to remove wood and keep the wood. We're using a carpenter's pencil for that. It works a lot better than mechanical. And farrier's rasp is our best friend again. So we're gonna hit those scribed lines. Always avoid the X's. Those are like the no-go zones. And then just test again. That's the side that we're having a little bit of trouble with. Here's our really, really good bending side. Nice and uniform. Marking a couple more areas that we want to hit. Here I'm pointing out the difference in thickness of the limbs. So this one, we want to narrow down just a little bit. So we're going to hit that on the sides with farrier's rasp. Again, farrier's rasp, best friend. Looking pretty decent. We need to go a little more narrow. We're just testing that bend. That's the great side. I want to stress that ending point just a little bit because the end looks a little stiff. Okay, 3 things need to line up here. The handle and both limb tips. Those are the only 3 things. And now because of the way it lines up, the arrow is probably going to have to be on the side that I just pointed to. Alright, we're going to use our draw knife. We're going to narrow out that limb tip just a little bit more because earlier we saw it was a little excessive. Now they're looking very symmetrical. I like them. Testing that bend one more time, marking the bottom area. That bottom area is just a little stiff still. So we're going to remove wood there. We're not going to touch where the X is. And then down at the end, we're going to remove a little bit more. Testing that bend. That's that troublesome side. Man, look at that glorious bend. And that's the bad side too. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the floor tillering stage. This is day 9. So we start out, we got a knife, and we got 2 different types of files. Those 3 tools will allow us to carve in our string grooves into the limb tips of the bow. So get one done, move over to the other side, same 3 tools. It's real meticulous, just take your time, make sure it looks kind of pretty. Okay, now I've got a leftover string. I'm using that kind of as a tillering string. It's It's way too long, so I can easily get it on there, and just kind of doing a reverse tillering method. I'm floor tillering quite heavily. Remember how important it is to exercise those limbs as you're removing material. Here's some extra strings. I find one that's just a little bit shorter than the one we're working with. That should work great for in the meantime. Definitely more bow here than here. We can fix that pretty quick. Just naturally return to the handy dandy rasp. We also apply some stress to the limb, trying to get it to take, and then we test the brace height. Here we're looking down, we're seeing how center shot it's going to be, and we're seeing which side the arrow is going to have to sit on when we shoot. Then we just continue exercising the limb. Here's a profile view. Limbs are bending very evenly. I'm liking that. Normally I use a cabinet scraper for this part, but I just had my pocket knife, so I'm just getting busy, just kind of doing some little tuning here and there, smoothing it out. We jump right back into exercising the limbs. Now that I feel like the limbs are bending evenly, I think it's ready to take the first couple shots. This is day 10. On the back side, we're gonna try to get every little piece of extra wood off and away from those knots. So you can see me meticulously getting after that with a very sharp knife. Get that part done. You can see all the extra wood's gone. Did not perforate any growth rings. Really proud of this one. This one came out great. So did this one. So now we're ready for the oh so hated stage, sanding. So I sand. This is my favorite part, the tongue oil. It just really brings things to life. So I'm going to show it in real time just so you can see. Just that wood, the grain, the way it comes out, it always amazes me. No matter what's going on in life, no matter what's going on in my head, whenever I do this part, it is very settling. I hope I was able to add to your day in some way, and that this kind of relaxed you like it does to me. Day 11 is all about the serving. So we're marking the location where we want our new serving to go. We're using BCY 400. We're gonna unstring the bow now, so then there's slack and we can put some of the servings through there. Now we're gonna restring the bow so that it's easier to put the serving on because there's some tension. And then you just run some wraps. You're gonna do a whole lot of coils. It takes a lot of time. They sell serving tools, but I've never bought one. I just always do it by hand. Then once you get to the end, you can cut off about 2 feet, and then you kind of do a reverse loop method. I have other videos very in detail on how to do this. Pretty much as you wrap one end of the loop, it tightens and the other end of the loop disappears so that you can make like an invisible knot. Here it is locking everything down. I'm going to apply some tension and kind of break it loose. But that's the end of installing our serving. We're just trimming up. Looks pretty nice. Now we're pulling back. We're making sure everything is still even. Everything looks good. Now we're going to take some shots. She's pretty accurate right off the rip. I really like the noise she makes. Well, this is day 11. And it is kind of the final day. The bow is pretty much done. Please drop in the comments if you're interested in seeing me make something else, or if you want a specific type of bow, maybe a crossbow, let me know. See you tomorrow.